start over in 1 second. All right, I'm walking into my friend's house.
Every time he's always on the phone, moving and shaking, making deals. This is what it is. Are we ready?
Let's reset.
We're not resetting. We're gonna reset. What's up, buddy? This is how you become immobile.
Can I show you the way you become successful is you take care of people, you say hello to everybody. So, for example, what's your name?
Mark.
Mark, hold on. Give me that.
Turn it around, huh?
Swing.
Do you know how to work this thing? Don't break it. You break it.
That's Mark. He's not always going to be behind the camera. You show respect to everybody. We're doing it here?
Yeah, sit down right there.
I got shorts and a t-shirt on.
That's okay.
You look good. I got jeans and a t-shirt.
Casual.
I'm here to learn the wisdom of Tony Gonzalez.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wide Open with Tony Gonzalez. I am here with one of my greatest friends, Mr. Scooter Scott Braun, music mogul, career maker, and just one hell of a nice guy. So
thanks, buddy.
Thank you for coming to the show. I hope you're fine, right? I mean,
yeah, shorts
and t-shirt.
That's
you
the
look
best
good.
part about working in my industry. That's why I didn't choose a corporate job. I can just wear this.
Yeah, you know what? We'll get into that in a little bit. Why you chose the job you do. I'm sure it's more than just being able to dress how you want, right?
Yeah, but that's a large part of it.
I just want to dress how I want. Well, your legs look nice, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've actually been slacking lately.
Really?
I'm going to do another contest. So I needed to bulk up a little bit, be a little bit out of shape so I have a chance at winning.
So people, when we talk about a contest, and people, actually, a lot of people know about this contest of you losing. It's a weight losing contest, right?
It's not weight, it's body fat. So what it is, it's really unhealthy what I'm about to say, this whole like fat to fit thing. And I don't go as crazy anymore. I don't go like crazy with it and super unhealthy, but I just let myself relax for about a month or two and not really work out, eat what I want, and then let myself slowly lose, get out of shape. And then this contest starts, and as much body fat percentage as you can lose in 60 days amongst a group of friends. We get very competitive and we push each other, and no one talks, crap. It's just, I'm working out, are you eating right? And we all push each other and we get in a really great shape. And you've worked out with me during those contests.
I have, and I don't like working out with you. You go too hard. Honestly, you go too hard. I did that for a living, and I went over there and worked out with you one time, and I got my ass kicked. I was so sore for the next 2-3 days. And because of that, I'll probably never work out with you again. It's not going to happen.
Well, I think I probably go that hard because I wasn't given the natural abilities you were. So I have to compensate.
All right. So on Wide Open, we talk about things, okay, how do we level up? Okay, physically, mentally, spiritually, conversations that we have all the time.
You and I have been talking about this for years.
Years and years and years. In fact, you're probably one of the people that has inspired me to do something like this.
Oh, cool.
Because I see our conversations and I'm like, you know what? People out there, they need to hear this, this type of stuff, especially coming from a mover and shaker like yourself.
I mean, look, part of this, we are actually outside of pocket. This is like one of my dearest friends in the world. And we met because my ex-girlfriend met your wife and got us to go to dinner in Atlanta. And I didn't want to go because you were Tony Gonzalez. And I'm like, this guy is already a legend. Last thing he's going to want to meet new people. And you can describe why you didn't want to go.
Well, I didn't want to meet you because he was Scooter Braun. And isn't that guy who found Justin Bieber? And he probably thinks he knows everything. Big know-it-all. I don't want to be around that guy.
And we went to dinner. And it was a Spanish beer that's served in kind of like a wine bottle.
Don't say the name.
I won't say the name.
Okay.
But it walked by and I recognized it. And you were like, "Oh, you know that," and then you pointed out to me your favorite beer, which is
Modelo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
God, he's so good at this stuff. God.
And we had some Modelo, and we ended up leaving the girls and going out on the town, just the two of us.
Yeah.
And we've been really close ever since and had great conversations. So for me, part of doing this is to document the friendship. We've had so many of these conversations over the years, but it's not documented. And at one point, we've talked about this. When you have children, you understand your mortality because there's this weird thing that like you fall in love with this thing in front of you so deeply and you realize that they weren't around for all the years you became this man that's standing in front of them. And one day you realize you're not going to be around as they go on with their life and someone else comes along. And for us to be able to document this and put it down as footage is actually super exciting for me because I want my kids to see this because they're going to know you as Uncle Tony their whole life. So this is kind of exciting to be able to have it, going forward.
Yeah. With all the guests, as we do, I want to start with your upbringing. I want to hear your stories of how you became who you became. What type of family life you're from. Let's go back to when you were younger. How'd you grow up?
I'll preface this by saying you love my dad.
Love your dad. Love Irv.
Yeah. You guys are like, you had the dad talk with him. You guys are like buddies. I'm a product of a lot of love. I can't say I'm from a broken home because I'm not. I'm probably from the exact opposite. My grandparents, you and I have talked about this, were Holocaust survivors. My grandmother was in Auschwitz when she was 15 years old. My grandfather was 10 years older than her. He was in Dachau from 24. And then they met 3 years after being liberated at a dance in Hungary when they were both looking for family. My grandmother found no one, so she was living with someone else. And my grandfather was older than her. She was 18 when they met, and he was 28. And they danced, and she told him his story, and he said, "You're never going to be alone again." And they never separated from that day. He died when I was 14. My grandmother died 2 years ago. She never dated anyone else all those years she was gone. That was the love of her life. They escaped during the Hungarian Revolution with their 2 young children, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. My dad got here as a 3-year-old to the United States, coming over on a boat after escaping Austria and coming from Hungary. And he was a refugee immigrant in this country. And my grandmother ended up working at a sweatshop 18 years, proud of sewing zippers onto jackets. My grandfather did odd jobs and kind of illegal dentistry, I believe, for the other immigrants in Queens. And that was my dad's upbringing. And it was, he really came from nothing but something in his mind, because my grandparents, they were all so tight and there was so much love in the household. My mom's dad died when she was 11 years old, pretty suddenly. Her mom had to take care of 3 children with barely a high school education. And they were in the Catskill Mountains. And my mom became a professional because she never wanted to ever be in that position again. So she became an orthodontist. And her and her sister were the first people, as females, to become professionals out there in the world. And my mom was a very quiet but strong person, really raised me with a tremendous amount of values. I call her the moral compass. I remember going to pro-choice, rallies with my mom when I was a kid. I remember her always making me understand, that in the house, and my dad too, they were partners and value was equal. But my mom was always the quiet boss, even though my dad's the loud one. And then in our household, there ended up being 3 of us. I'm the oldest, and then my parents adopted 2 more. So there's 5 kids. And I mean, talk about a lot of love. Like, because my dad's upbringing and being an immigrant and a refugee, there was always a room in our house for someone else. So I remember there was a Russian family that immigrated and lived with us for like 2 months. And then, this kid Spoon, he lived with us for 11 months. And my buddy Dale moved in with us for a little bit. And then when my brother Sam and Cornelio came along, they were, in their young teens. And Cornelia, in broken English, they were from Mozambique, said, "Can we stay?" And my parents called a meeting. We talked, and they were adopted. That was it. And we're all really, really tight. And I find, as much as I've learned in business and now collected amazing mentors, the example that my family has set for me on how to carry myself in the world is still my number one guiding force. And now I'm trying to do that with my 3 kids.
What are some of those examples because I still want to get back to how you grew up too.
Yeah.
Personally. But what are like, give me the key example that they taught you?
Look, I think the golden rule is one of the most important things anyone could live by. Treat others the way you want to be treated, and also, to me, the heroes of my life were refugees, immigrants, and people who did odd jobs. Like, my grandmother was one of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. My grandfather was one of the strongest people you'll ever meet. They were heroes to me. I would not be here without them. So whenever I go into any instance, I value every person in the room, because before my grandmother died, 4 years ago, I took her to Disney World. And because of my relationships in my industry, I'm able to get a guide and cut the lines and do different things. And I'll never forget, out of everything that happened that day and how much fun we soaring over California, we did like 5 times. And like, I'll never forget her looking at me and saying, Skatika, that's what she would call me. She said, Skatika, I would clean the floors in this place. She goes, I would clean the bathrooms if they let me. And she's like one of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life. So everyone I meet, I want to value them because I know what I come from. So that's one of them. You know, my dad taught me how to just be a rock. You know, sometimes it's not about your movement, it's about your stability. You know, about making sure that you're a consistent person so that people always know a place that they can turn to is you. When my dad was my coach growing up in AAU basketball, and I remember my teammates one time were coming down really hard on him because that's what teenagers do. And I started getting annoyed because I saw the sacrifice he was making behind the scenes. And I finally said to him, how do you handle that? Because my dad's tough. It wasn't like he was taking it. And my dad said, as a coach, the wins are yours and the losses are mine. And he goes, that's the job. When you guys win, it's all of you. You did that. When we lose, that's on me. And that's my job as a manager. That's my job as an executive. That's my job as a father. The wins are everyone else's. The losses are mine. And I kind of live with that. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff we've been able to achieve, people don't even know, even though we're a very forward-facing company. I'm forward-facing. I've tried to build a brand to help. But not everything is good for public consumption. It's some things are just for you. So I try to keep it a 50-50 balance.
I think when you have that attitude, though, you also got to be unafraid of what other people think. How do you balance that of not really giving a shit about what other people think, but also at the same time trying to make sure that everybody's satisfied?
Look, I think the fact that you as a friend, as close as we are, the fact that you even asked me that question means I've done a good enough job tricking people that I don't give a shit. Here's the truth. I think you have to know your truth to have stability. I think you have to have a long-term vision, not get caught up in the moment, and understand that usually the bad things that come your way are just an opportunity to tell a better story. No one watches the movie Rudy, and they wouldn't have watched that movie if his dad was like, you know what, son, I really believe you could play for Notre Dame. Wouldn't have been a good movie. He had to have that adversity. So when bad things are said or people try to change my truth, I look at that as an opportunity to tell a better story. But I know my truth, so what doesn't bother me. But that isn't life. Life's a roller coaster. It's kind of ups and downs, and that's what the journey is. So there are days where I look at my life and I'm like, you can't beat me. I have everything I've ever dreamed of and more. You can say whatever you want, but I know my truth. And then there's nights I get in my own head, and I turn over at 38 years old away from my wife with all the amazing things that I have in my life, all the success, the family, everything that I've ever dreamed of. And I'll cry myself to sleep because I'm scared of the next day.
Okay.
I'm scared of what's coming. Will I maintain? What will people think? And I get in my own head, and then I go to sleep, and I get back on the roller coaster going back up. And that's the journey. That's just part of it. But I think how I overcome not caring the shit talking, I take a step back and look at what's real. With social media, people get overwhelmed a lot. I tell this to my clients all the time. My clients are the biggest people on social media in the world. So I say, hey, you have 100 million or more following you. If 10,000 of them are yelling at you, it's overwhelming. You think the world is ending. Less than 1%.
Yeah.
It's not real. You want to know what's real, sit down with your friends and family, turn your phone off, turn off your social media, and ask them. And I kind of try to live in a real place.
So I know you want to live in a real place. Actually, I have two questions, but let's stick with that one right there. How do you get honesty from people, especially being in your position
where they can
your
just
clients?
yes me?
Yeah, because I'm in the same position. You get surrounded by people that want to tell you how great you are at times. And then also too, sometimes you start to think that you know everything. You're like, look what I've achieved. How do you keep that balance of saying, okay, I'm going to be able to accept honesty?
Okay, you and I have talked about this many times. So I'm going to tell you the number one way. You and I are very lucky. We married two women who aren't impressed by any of that. We joke around that they don't listen to us, that I really wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with someone who just thought I was wonderful all the time. My best friend in the world is is my wife Yale, because she pisses me off probably the most because she questions me more than anyone. But I need that. I need to wake up and have that pedestal chopped. I need, like, marriages work for a reason. It makes you better in the end. And like all that work, and I'm, only 5 years into it, but like, she's my ride or die, but she's also the person who questions me the most. And I'll talk a little bit later about a really dark moment in my life and where she stepped up and really taught me an important lesson. And she's not the one to just like, hey, let me just hold you and tell you it's going to be okay. She'll do that, but then she'll look at you and say, where's your accountability? What are you going to do about making yourself better in this moment? And that's really important. I also try to surround myself with friends who don't want to be around me all the time. When you have friends who are around you 100% of the time, you know what that means? That means they ain't got shit to do because they're not working on themselves. All they got to do is be around you and be the entourage and the yes man and everything else. So for me, whether it be my clients or myself, I try to get my clients and me to surround myself with people who have something else going on and have lives that I admire. I want to be around people that's why we became friends. Like, we've had so many of these conversations because I don't need anything from you. You don't need anything from me, but we do because the friendship makes us better. You push me every single time we talk. I try to push you every single time we talk, and we grow from it. And I think that's where you get the honesty from. You get someone like our friend Brian. Brian is one of the most honest friends I have. He's emotional as hell.
Emotional, yeah. Love Brian.
I mean, he's emo beyond. But he's honest with you because he cares and he loves you and he genuinely doesn't want anything from people. And I think when you find people like that, you hold on to them really, really tight because they're your compass.
Yeah, and those are the ones that are going to keep you going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have a friend who's never challenged you, I would question if that's a real friendship.
So I want to go back to you said something that stood out to me when you're sitting in bed and that doubt comes up. You said you were crying. Which I think we all go through, whether we like to admit it or not. Most, especially men, we have a hard time admitting something like that. But it happens. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And when you go through something like that, how do you talk to yourself? Do you call one of these friends that are honest to you, or is it something you say, okay, I'm the greatest, or like, what tricks do you have to get out of that type of a depression, I guess?
The number one trick is sleep. I found over the years that when I get in that place, sometimes you just got to shut off and you got to get a good night's sleep, because it might be your brain playing tricks on you. You're going too hard. So a good night's rest. Like I read this thing where Jeff Bezos said he gets 8 hours of sleep a night because if he doesn't, it's bad for his shareholders because he's not as productive. And I'm like, well, if this guy can get a good night's sleep, I need to change my lifestyle. And I've been a much more stable person since actually prioritizing my sleep patterns.
Yeah.
So I think sleep is a huge part of it. I think taking a step back, like I talked about, and understanding what's real and what's not, and understanding that as fast as your brain moves, it actually only concentrates on one thing at a time. And that might be milliseconds and everything else, but it's one thing at a time. So just change that slide, change that perspective and go to one that's more about positivity and try to get in that good place. 99% of the time I don't call a friend. And I would say 100% of the time before I went through about a depression when my grandmother died, because I just had always been the rock. I was the friend who, would want to be the sober driver. I was the friend who always wanted to be there for everyone else. And I'll just get right into that story I was going to tell you later with my wife, where my grandmother passed away and my second son was born 9 days later. And my dad had lost his father when I was 14. Now he, lose my grandmother. And my dad, who's so close to his parents, doesn't have anyone. My dad's a very strong man. And now I'm having to be a rock for him while my wife has a child who's 2 years old and now a newborn baby, and she's breastfeeding. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm like strong for everybody and be happy that I had this child. And I never really took time to mourn the loss of her. And what ended up spiraling was everyone hit me like, man, she was so amazing. She was so incredible. I'm so sorry. And like, she was loved by all my friends beyond. But then that just kind of passed very quickly. People go on with their lives, everything else. And then I'm worrying about, not showing any vulnerability in my wife because I don't want to put that burden on her. I'm trying to take care of my family. I'm the oldest child, so I'm trying to be strong for everybody. And then one day I just realized I'm really depressed about this and no one is checking on me. Like, I'm the person in my mind who's there for everyone all the time. Why is no one asking me if I'm okay? And I got incredibly depressed of like, when is anyone going to care? You know, it's in a selfish kind of way.
Yeah.
And I didn't call anybody, and I was like, I'll go to sleep. I'll use my tricks. I'll beat it. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it was through like the Christmas break. My grandmother died in November, and I just got in this crazy heavy depression. And I'm getting more depressed because I'm like, you have two beautiful children, you have this amazing wife, you have an amazing life, you have the life that your grandmother would have dreamed of for you. Like, what is going on with you? And I couldn't get out of the rut. It was getting worse and worse. And then I started fishing for hope that my friends would check on me. I started just texting friends randomly, like, hey, what you doing? And then, you know, respond normally, like, I'm doing this, what's up with you? Like, but nothing like caring, because no one expects me to be broken.
Yeah.
And to my credit, his credit, my friend Ryan, out of nowhere, saw me send the text, and the next day he calls me, he goes, hey, I know you don't normally leave the house, but do you want to just go get a drink? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. And we went out, and the whole night, Ryan didn't ask me one question if it was okay. He just let my mind erase from it. Took me out. We went to a comedy club. Like, we just hung out as friends. And the next day he called me and goes, I thought you deserved a night out. I know you always carry a lot of stuff. What's actually going on with you? Mm-hmm. And I spilled it out, because you just want to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And I spilled it out, and he got me to talk to another friend of ours who kind of goes through the same type of stuff. And that friend said, you have to tell your wife. You got to tell her. She's an amazing woman. You got to tell her. And I went to my wife and I said, I need to speak to you. And I poured it all out. And I'm going to a really dark place and really upset. And I thought her response would be, I love you. We can get through anything. Let me hold you. You're going to be okay. And my wife said, you can always tell me. I love you. You should never feel like you can't tell me anything. But this is your fault. And I went, excuse me? And she said, I love you. I'm here for you, and I'm really upset you felt a need that you couldn't tell me. We need to always be able to talk about this stuff. But you always fix things for other people and move on so quickly, because that's the way your brain works. You identify the problem, you fix it, you go, and next one, and next one, and next one, and next one. You don't stay around to engage and show people who you are and your fears and your desires. So how are they supposed to know to help you if they don't actually know you like that? And I said, what do you mean know me? I've been all these people through like the important times in their life. And she's like, yeah, their life. What about yours? And she goes, you need to stop going so quickly and engage. The same thing I tell you with our kids that she made me great at, which is there's a difference between being present and being present. You can be there, but if you're not going to truly be there, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I made a New Year's resolution, because it was the end of December, that following year, even if it messed up my schedule, I was going to have these conversations. I was going to engage with people. I was going to be vulnerable. And this amazing thing took place where not only have I built amazing relationships with people in a completely different level, but I now truly know that vulnerability is strength. One, I feel better. And when I share that, I'm 38 years old and I turn in my bed and, still cry myself to sleep. I've had so many college kids approach me of being like, I'm going through this phase in my life where I'm trying to figure it out. And hearing you say that made me feel okay. And then I took a step back and said, that's why I wanted, to meet David Geffen when I read this book about him when I was 19, not because he was perfect, but because he was flawed like me, and he achieved so much. Nobody wants to see perfection. So we keep holding on to perfection because we're afraid, because in our mind, we talk to ourselves with such disdain up here that probably the way we talk to ourselves, we would never be friends with that person.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, by just being open and showing people that I'm scared and showing people that, I make mistakes and I'm learning and, growing, and I'm relating to people on a completely different level. And that's one of the reasons you and I got so close, because you were one of those people I was sharing on that level. And then you did the same. You talked to me about, can I go there?
Yeah, we can go there for sure.
You talked to me about
wide open.
You talked to me about the fear of every Sunday you were this champion warrior, Tony Gonzalez on that field. And then you step off, and there's that fear of like, what comes next? And I'm glad you're doing stuff like this, because you have so much more to offer than on that field. And you've already shown that many times over. But that's one of your fears. And when you opened up to me on that level, I felt incredibly close to you because you showed me that vulnerability, and I'm trying to do the same.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's therapeutic. It's cathartic. It's like you get it out of your chest and you allow other people, just like you said, to open up to you, and it makes everybody better.
Yeah.
I mean, not only it's making us better, but now because all the lives that we touch, and especially for you with your client list, if you can get at least a little bit of that to those clients and they go touch everybody else, it's like you're doing it spreads like wildfire. It's such a good thing. It's like, that's why I always say we're all in this together. But one cool thing, I want to share a story about you. You just reminded me of it. And I don't know where it started. I think you told me before, but I forgot. At birthdays, people out there. So I guess it started with your family, where everybody goes around at a birthday party and they have to say something nice about the person's birthday. And we did this. We take a trip every year on a boat, and I don't even know. It's not even somebody's birthday though. We just sit around and
I just like doing it.
We like doing it. But when I first got introduced to this by you, it was
without the birthday, we make everyone say something about everyone at the table.
Say something about everybody at the table. Say something nice or something, whatever it is.
Whatever
right?
experience, but share about that person at the table. And we go, each person had to go. And it makes people come out of their shell. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but it's incredibly uncomfortable though. You know this, right?
Yeah, because when you break out of your comfort zone, that's when you create something real usually.
Yeah. But anyway, I've stolen this from you.
You can. Everyone listening can steal this. I think this is one of my favorite things in the world because it creates real connections.
And you should do that. Everybody listening, I'm telling you right now, at everybody's birthday, just go around the table, especially for brothers and sisters. Now, your kids are a little bit young, but they still can do this. I think they're getting to an age now, at least the older ones. Jagger, he could do that. But just the siblings talking to the other sibling, sharing how they feel about him. It's just cool. And it lets people know, okay, as much as we fight, we can still know that we love each other deep down inside. And then people that you just met too, because we had met some people on the boat that we barely knew.
And it got deep.
But in that short amount of a time, like sometimes people are crying and tears. Like it was just great.
Yeah, and it's a lot of laughter, a lot of tears. Like you end up getting to a very deep level, and then you're looking at someone saying, okay, now we're in a real place. And one of my favorite things is a lot of people met on that first trip, and completely separate of now me and my wife, you guys are all really good friends, and you just went on a vacation with one of those other couples.
Yeah.
And that brings a lot of joy to me to see like two people, groups of people that I love come together and create their own relationships. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Obviously you found Justin.
Yeah.
And now off of that though, people are probably like, it's so easy for him. It's so easy for him to keep, because of what you did the first time out, that it's smooth sailing from here on out, which is not the case.
Look, I think the hardest work is always done in the beginning of building something, because you're breaking through that A to B, C to D. All that stuff afterwards is actually much easier. The interesting thing though is how easily you can lose everything you've built. It's hard to get there. It's actually easier to maintain, but so easy to lose at the same time. So it's about managing what you were talking about earlier: managing ego, managing truth, managing doubt. And making sure that you're taking advantage of the right, moments, and also getting a true understanding of what do you want out of life. If winning awards every single day, is what you want out of life, then you go after that. But sometimes you see people walk away and they wanted something else, and that's a beautiful thing too. You have to figure out what you want. And I think an important thing people should do is write down your goals in the beginning. Write them down so that when you get there, you're not caught in the rat race, and at least you could have some perspective of where you are on the map.
Did you know always that you were going to do what you wanted, what you started doing?
No. When I was a kid, I read the Phil Jackson book, and I was like, I want to coach professional basketball. I know I'm not going to be a player.
You want to be a coach, huh?
I was like, I want to be a coach.
Okay.
My dad was coaching. I read Phil's book. I can do that. I was like, maybe I'll be a politician. Maybe because I was class president in high school. But I love basketball, and I was like, maybe coaching this, that. And then, I go down.
Then you went into party promoting.
I got down in Atlanta, and I was broke because my parents, they were like, man, I never had a credit card from them. And these kids all had money. And I was like, I don't like being broke. So I started, to be honest with you, selling my friends fake IDs. I showed him how to do it as a business. Did that for about 2 months. He started breaking my rules, so I walked away from it. And then I started throwing parties to make some extra money, and I got really good at it really quickly.
You could have been king of the underworld. Sounds like. Like you could have been the next Gotti.
Look, I'm not going to say this guy's name, but it was I actually one summer after I became like a kind of a big college party promoter, I went to work for somebody, and I thought I wanted to be that. You know, I was really good at it, and I saw the lifestyle that he was having in his 40s of being at the clubs every night, and he had the Ferrari, and he was at the best restaurants, and most beautiful women were like hanging out with him. And I learned some really important lessons of marketing from him, but I realized very quickly I didn't want his life. I wanted to be my father. I remember very vividly having this image of every night when my dad would come home from work, there was like this 4-step kind of entrance from our garage. And my brother and I used to run and jump into his arms from that step because we were so excited he was home. And I realized how lucky I was that he was home. And it was that summer, I was 19, where I was like, I'm going to build this promotion thing, but I'm not going to end in this promotion thing.
And then from there, though, did you say to yourself, okay, I want to go out and find talent?
Yeah, I read a book about David Geffen. And he said he was a guy from Brooklyn, grew up with nothing, also immigrant family, who went into the mailroom at William Morris, who was flawed like I was flawed. You know, his thing is he wanted to be an actor, but he was like, I don't think I have what it takes to be a big movie star, so I'll be on the agency side. I was like, I want to be a basketball player, I'll be on the coaching side. Like, I started to see similarities, and I read this book, and there was this one moment in the book where he was trying to sign John Lennon's solo career. And everyone in the book is going after, you know, Lennon through different ways. And I'm screaming, go to Yoko Ono, go to Yoko Ono, go to Yoko Ono. And I turned the page in my dorm room freshman year, and he went to Yoko Ono, and that's how he got it. And I was like, I think like this. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then he says the reason he went into music is because movies took years, TV took years. A song can change your life in a night. And he'll use music to get in and then go to all the other entrepreneurial things. And from there, David went on to make Asylum Records. So like Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Eagles, Jackson Browne, to then going on and doing Geffen Records, which is like Guns N' Roses and, you know, so many other huge, huge bands, to then going into movies. His first movie was Risky Business with Tom Cruise. His first Broadway show ends up being Cats and then Little Shop of Horrors, you know, and then he goes into, they build DreamWorks, as you know, Spielberg, Katzenberg, Geffen, and did all that stuff, and then collecting art. It's just like this amazing story from a kid who grew up with nothing to the mailroom, where he was reading the memos upside down as he passed them out. He taught himself how to read upside down so he could learn the business. And that kind of tenacity and drive made me believe. So, you know, that's kind of what drove me to that place of like, I'm going to go into music, and Atlanta seems to be a hotbed for it. So I started doing it. You and I met. I was running So Def Records for Jermaine Dupri because he saw me in the parties and gave me an opportunity. Shaka Zulu and Ludacris were the first record I ever worked in the clubs, Throw Them Bows, before I even took the job with Jermaine. And then I left, and I said, I have all these ideas on my own. I didn't leave. I wanted to leave for like 6 months. I ended up getting fired because of a misunderstanding with not even Jermaine. And Jermaine's like, just give it 2 weeks and I'm going to rehire you. And I was like, I'm gone. And I still love Jermaine. He put me in the opportunity. We're very good friends to this day. I just did his documentary. And I said, I'm going to start my own thing, and I'm going to bet on people no one believes in, just like me. And I signed a kid off MySpace named Asher Roth. We had a song called I Love College and a gold album with Asleep in the Bread Aisle. And I took all the money from that and doubled down on this young kid that I found on YouTube named Justin Bieber, who is 25 now, and I was with him yesterday.
Yeah.
And then from there, it spiraled. You know, I worked really hard and buckled down on that for 4 years, and I saw that I can make Justin, in my mind, one of the biggest artists ever. I saw it. From the moment I saw him sing, I was like, there's something here. And none of my friends saw it. None of the labels saw it, but I just fully believed that he had what it took. And when I met him and I saw his tenacity and his drive and his confidence, I was like, he has it. And we have a very special relationship. We've gone on this amazing journey together, ups and downs, but we have each other's back for life. And then from there, someone talked crap, because that's usually what gets me going. A little disrespect pushes me. That's all I need.
Yeah.
And They said, oh, he's good, but all he had is that. And I'm like, all I had is that. Most people never get that. So I went out and said, I'm going to sign stuff I can break within a year. And I signed Gangnam Style, Call Me Maybe, and Glad You Came within 18 months of each other. And then I signed, with that, Carly Rae Jepsen, Tori Kelly, Martin Garrix, Dan and Shay, and then, Ariana Grande. And it's just been a really incredible run. We expanded in other things, TV and film and other companies and acquisitions. And there's not a day that goes by at this point where I don't wake up, look at everything that's happened to me. I'm going to get emotional in this thing with you. Look at everything that's happened to me. Look at my wife, look at my kids, and think about my grandmother and her and my grandfather of just a generation ago with my father, what everything they went through. And my philosophy is you don't get blessings unless you give them at this point. I believe if you have a glass, if somebody's pouring the blessings in, if you don't pour it into another glass, it just spills, makes a mess on the table, and you lose it all. And I can't comprehend all this has happened to me unless somebody upstairs has a reason for it, and it's not for me to keep it all. So that's kind of my philosophy with it all. Kind of went a little further with it, sorry.
No, that's a great philosophy. I love it because you get all this wealth and whatever it is. And the best part about it, I call it joy. We were sitting at your birthday party and Ashton Kutcher stood up and he called do you remember the word that he said? I think it was a Sanskrit word called mudita.
Mudita.
Mudita. And
yes,
it means,
he and I have talked about this a lot.
And it means finding joy in other people's joy.
Yeah.
And really when it comes down to it, you can have all the wealth and all the fame and all the cash, whatever it is, but it doesn't mean shit if you're not out there sharing it with somebody and impacting somebody's lives. And it sounds like you probably got that from your parents growing up. You saw your grandparents, and now you're passing that on. And God, that's why I love you. That's why I love hanging out with you. Another thing too, I want to make sure that people out there don't miss what I thought that stood out to me is your life pretty much changed with a book. It sounds like you read about a guy named David Geffen that you didn't know.
Nope.
And you know him now, right?
He's my mentor now.
He's one of your mentors. I didn't want to say it. I know that.
Look, I have no problem saying it. When I was 30 years old, I moved finally from Atlanta, where we were really good friends, to LA. And about 6 months in, I was at a restaurant and someone I knew was there and we were talking and David Geffen walked in and he walks over to say hi to that other person. And that, Jimmy Iovine. And Jimmy Iovine introduces me to David Geffen. And he goes, oh, nice to meet you. And I shook his hand. And I still remember vividly leaving that restaurant, walking down 3rd Street in West Hollywood and calling my mom, waking her up in the middle of the night to be like, guess who I just met? 30 years old. I was still starstruck. I couldn't believe it. And later on that year, they put me on the cover of Billboard magazine for the 40 under 40. But I was 30. And I didn't want to call my mom or anybody. Guess what, I'm on a cover. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do, but I cold called David Geffen's office and he picked up and I said, I don't know if you remember. He goes, oh yeah, we met at, I said, oh God, he remembers me. And I said, listen, I don't know if this means anything to you, but I just need to say it. I'm on the cover of this thing. And he goes, oh, it's very nice. He was like, why are you calling to brag? And I said, I'm calling to tell you that I wouldn't even be in this position in my life if it wasn't for your inspiration. And I just needed to tell you because I didn't get a chance to tell you the other night. And I need to tell you. And he goes, well, that's really nice. Well, they keep, talking about us both. So, because in the magazine, they kind of made a comparison. And he said, well, they keep talking to us. Well, maybe we should know each other. All right, Scooter, take care. And he hung up. And I was like, I'm never going to hear from this guy again. Why did I do that? The next day I came to my office, my assistant said, David Geffen's office called. You have lunch with him next week. And David and I have had lunch or dinner pretty much every month ever since. Mm-hmm. And he is, I don't do business with him, but he is one of the greatest givers of wisdom in my life.
Mm-hmm. And first of all, that shows incredible fearlessness. As we went around the table.
Or stupidity.
No, stupidity, fearless is a fine line, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. But I believe that is what makes people great. That's a key ingredient because a lot of people would say, oh, I'm not going to bother him. I'm not going to do that. But you have the cojones to call somebody, to cold call somebody up. And granted, you are who you are. But don't lose that lesson out there for anybody listening.
I know where it comes from.
Where does it come from?
Every day. My dad, I think, told you this because you and my dad met through me, obviously. And he gave you this whole talk about kids, and that's where you guys bonded. My dad, every night, I don't even remember where it started because it started so young. And by the way, I do it with my boys now in their room. Every night before we went to sleep, he'd say, "Good night, boys. Brauns are different. I hold you to a higher standard." And it was every night. And then as we got older, he would say, "You can't do that. You're different. You're not just the everyday kid. I hold you to a higher standard. You want to be great, you got to be held to a higher standard. You're different. You are great." And along the way, as much as me and my brother were annoyed with, "We get it, Dad, Brauns are different," like somewhere along the way, me and Adam fell for the propaganda. We started to believe the bullshit.
Yeah.
And we believed that if we're equal with everyone else, but we're different, what makes that person any more able to do that than me? I should be able to pursue that as well. And I'm trying to ingrain, I've never heard anyone say that their family did that until I met Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine said, we actually bonded over it. He said, "I can't believe you're telling me this. Every night before I went to bed, my father told me I was special."
Yeah.
And Jimmy, cojones, you talk about cojones, you watch his documentary. I mean, Jimmy's one of the greatest to ever do it. And I think that it's really important with kids to instill confidence in them, whether it be your own child or if you're coaching a team or you have an opportunity to just be in a child's life. Like, a child can have a huge head start on life if you just instill confidence, because that's where it came from with me. My dad made us believe that we could achieve things. And we went through life kind of with that understanding.
Yeah. Belief.
Yeah.
Fearlessness.
Why not?
Why not? Do you think that there's nothing that you can't accomplish?
I think there's nothing I
in
can't.
your business, in your line of work?
Here's what I believe, and this is because of those lessons from him. I believe there's nothing that I should be afraid of failing at. I don't believe that everything is going to happen to me. And that's part of the lessons of adulthood, FOMO, like fear of missing out. You have to be okay that not everything is going to be yours, that there should be things left for your children to pursue, that you didn't take that moment away from them. Like, there should be things that you enjoy a good life and you don't have to have every little accolade. My philosophy is, I don't want to count someone else's money. I don't want to count someone else's accolades. I want to live by my own truth, my own happiness, pursue what I want to pursue. And failure is not the end. Every day I wake up in the morning, I take another breath, I have another opportunity to pursue. Death is the only chance at failure. It means you don't get another shot. So for me, I'm not afraid of failing anything because I already feel like I'm winning with so many other things that have happened to me in my life. So why not go for it? If it doesn't work out, what's the worst thing that happens? I don't get that. Look at all the other things that I got. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And if I'm not done chasing it, tomorrow I get to wake up and go again.
Yeah. And another key thing that I always see in you, and all the books that I've read on amazing people, the people that I've had a chance to have conversations with, is they're very humble. And by humble, I mean, you don't think you know it all. That's why you get a mentor. That's why you can go to someone like David Geffen. A lot of people, they fall into that trap, especially when they start to have a little bit of success. They're like, okay, I got it covered. I got this. Where being humble is basically saying there's a lot more out there that I don't know than what I do know. Well, and how have you been able to keep that humility? Where does that come from?
Look, I don't think every friend in my life is going to describe me as the first word is humble. I think to be successful, to go after things at a certain place, you have to have a little bit. Ego is battling with your humility at a constant rate. What I truly believe, though, what keeps me in that place that you're talking about is I believe I'm lucky. I believe that I'm here because of the sacrifices of other people. I believe that I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people that work with me. I feel like there's things that probably have flipped my way that I don't even know someone did for me. I don't think anyone gets there on their own, period. Mm-hmm. I think one of the smartest people I know is a guy named Howard Marks. People should read his books if they want to, just one of the smartest people. He's one of the greatest guys in finance in the world, Oak Tree Capital. And I got to meet him through my mentor, and he became a mentor. So I kind of collect these mentors you talked about. And he has this thing about luck. He's like, anyone who says that luck didn't play a role in their success is just lying. They're a jackass. And the reason he says this is, I was born in 1981 in New York City. lucky right there. Right there off the bat, I'm lucky. Someone was not born in that opportunity right there. If you don't think geographically you are lucky, the time period you're born in, you are lucky, then you're completely naive.
Yeah.
So I think that keeping that in mind allows you to stay humble. And I also don't think humans were made to be worshiped. I think we're made to serve. And I have a strong belief in God. And I think it's a good thing to have some kind of higher power because it keeps you grounded that it ain't about you. So I think that's kind of where it comes from. And then when I lose my way, because usually you lose your way and lose your humility and let your ego win in moments of fear, where, God, I don't think they know what I've done. Or this person isn't showing me enough respect. Or, I need to show them who I am so I can be a part of the club. It comes from insecurity. That's usually where the ego rises up. And I have enough good people in my life that when it happens, and it happens, they check me.
Yeah. Let's switch it up a little bit. I want to talk about your workout routine,
which I've been slacking on.
I know you talked about it before. You're actually, you work out. Sometimes you look like a superhero. We go on vacations, especially at the beginning. Like you work your ass off. You can tell he shows up. He is shredded. Yeah, and gets on the boat. And
not right now because the contest is coming, so I'm not doing it right now. But yeah, I was.
But you love food, right? But you also love to work out. What kind of workouts do you do? Do you have a trainer? When do you work out in the morning? Morning time. You work out 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week?
I try to be active when I'm going and I'm not in a contest, and like when I'm actually just trying to live my life and not trying to be bad on purpose. I try to be active 6 to 7 days out of the week.
What's your favorite workout? Something that this is one that you guys should try.
That's
this
pure
out.
ego. It's just arms, just
girls for the girls.
But look, my favorite workout is you've done it with me as I kind of do sets. I do supersets, and I basically I choose the body parts that I want to work out. I do cardio in the beginning, usually Tabata, because I'm just trying to get my heart rate way up, and then I go into kind of supersets of 3 workouts, 12 to 15 reps at a time, back to back to back, 4 rounds, and then I do that 3 different times with 3 different workouts. And which you've done with me.
I know. I don't like doing that.
And then we end with Tabata at cardio at the end. When I'm going really hardcore, I'll add in kind of a cardio at the end of the day because I'm trying to lose body fat. But when I'm usually just living my life, I work out for about 45 minutes to an hour in the morning before the day starts. And it's fun now because the kids join me. But for the last month and a half, because I've been trying to bulk up for the contest, my son is like, "Daddy, why aren't we going in the gym?"
You're bulking up, huh? You're trying to get a little.
I'm trying to get a little heavy.
A little calorie. What is your food?
What's actually happened is I haven't gotten heavy like I wanted. I've actually lost weight because I'm losing the muscle mass. So I'm not like getting fat. I'm just kind of getting soft.
Yeah, so you're getting that dad bod.
Yeah, I'm getting a little soft. But now I'm at a point. August 1st, I start again. So I'm actually, when you get to the end, you get annoyed because you miss. There's something about, which I think is what you're getting at, you just feel better when you're healthy.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've started my day properly. I feel clearer. I feel more active with my children. I feel more confident and better about myself. And I really enjoy being healthy. So right now, it's fun to actually take a break too. Like when you just say, "I'm taking a break," and eat chocolate cake for 5 straight days.
Yeah.
Or is what you?
I've seen it. I've seen this now.
Yeah. You saw me with the ice cream.
So we had these ice cream sandwiches. We were on vacation somewhere. I'm not kidding. You ate, I think, 8 of them.
Right in a row.
We're in a row. Yeah. 8 ice cream sandwiches in a row.
But I was in shape.
It was almost a joke. I was
in shape
serious?
at that point, but I said, I'm taking a weekend off. And I just went so hard.
I love food. Doesn't that hurt a little bit? I was like,
no, I don't know what it is.
Wake up the next day.
This thing can go. I mean, I can eat if I want to eat, but yeah, I'm actually now it's towards the end, and I don't feel like feeling like this, and I'm really looking forward to going hard again. I was at the Zach Brown show, one of our clients last night, and one of his guys came up and he goes, "Hey man, no days off," and that's like something I've been preaching about, like just be healthy every single day, be active every day. And I looked at him and I was like, man, I'm slacking on my own thing because of this contest. And I felt bad. He like looked at me super disappointed. But I just think there's something to be said. My dad is 65. He's in incredible shape. And he's so active as a grandfather. I really admired that. And for about 10 years, because I just felt like I had to achieve this thing in business, I didn't take care of myself at all. And when I went into college, I was in such great shape because I was playing ball, and I got fat. I got out of shape. I got unhealthy. And then suddenly I had 2 little boys, and I went for a checkup with this doctor, and he said, your cholesterol is at a rate where you will have a heart attack in the next 5 to 10 years if you don't make a lifestyle change.
Well, that'll wake you up. Yeah.
And at first it didn't. Funny enough, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna make it. About 3 weeks, I made a change. Then I went back to it. And my son was playing with me, and I was doing the math of how old he would be if he lost me within 5 to 10 years. And that was the wake-up call. Mm-hmm. I just kind of was like playing with him, and I got tired. And I thought, man, I can't leave him at 8 years old. I can't leave him at 7. I can't leave him at 18 or 17.
Yeah.
And, or 14. And I made a lifestyle change. And it was for them.
What would be
Italian
your last
food.
dying meal?
Italian.
What kind? Like, give me a specific.
Like where you and I went on that vacation.
So what dish was that? Was it chicken parmesan?
No, it was everything that happened that night at that Lemon Tree restaurant. That they had
lemon pasta.
It was lemon pasta, the chicken parm, all the pastas, and then you walk out of your chair and they had a room. Remember the room?
Yeah.
They had a room called the dessert room, where it was all you can eat dessert, and it was just
there must have been
room.
50 desserts in there. Something.
I can only describe it as heaven on earth.
Yeah.
It was like this. It was, first of all, you had the craziest Italian food you've ever had in your life, and there's lemon trees because you're in a lemon orchard.
Yeah.
And you're eating, and sometimes one of these things fall and like crack people on the head.
It could never happen in America.
Yeah,
no
never.
way.
No, liability, no way.
No way.
But it was the greatest food. I mean, we laughed. I actually think about that, where the greatest meals I've had, when I think about great food, it's not just the food. The greatest meals have been the company and the food.
I agree with that. Yeah. That's what it, food, friends, and family. I think those are like the 3 F's that I just love. I mean, that's an instant good time. That has nothing to do with cash, has nothing to do with location. You could do that anywhere. You can do that in your basement.
You're reminding me of another one of the life lessons my dad gave.
Which is that?
You talk about the food, family, friends, and it's not about the money. And when I was 19 and got to, down in Atlanta, I'm throwing the parties and the fake IDs, whatever I was doing. And I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I read this book about David Geffen, and I said, I'm going to be a billionaire. And then a week later, I was like, damn, making $5,000 is hard. Like, we need to reassess this billionaire status, because this might be an unrealistic goal. And I met a guy who had, an amazing family, a partner and his wife. They both worked. They both had wonderful kids. They had a dog, little whaler boat. Like, they had this incredible life together. And I said, how much money do I need to make in my lifetime to get this? And he named a number that was real. That was like, it was serious. Yeah. It was like something that I thought I would get to in my 40s and my 50s. So I worked really, really hard and really believed in myself. And I didn't know about the luck that was coming down the road in my life, the things that were going to happen to me that I still think are unbelievable. I was 27 years old. You'll know because you know Atlanta. I was driving down Piedmont Road by Cactus Car Wash.
Yeah.
And my accountant called me and he said, hey, this deal came through, this deal, your investment paid off in this. I said, okay, cool. Hung up the phone and I said, wait a second. I called him back and I said, how much money do I have across these accounts? And he said, let me look. Says a number, and it's higher than that number I had set at 19. I was 27. And I thought that was the number that happiness and contentment and all these things were going to happen for me in my 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
And now I'm 27. And he says it to me, and I kind of try to take it in. And then I keep driving down Piedmont Road, and all of a sudden, I literally had to pull over and call my dad. And I was like, Dad, I need to tell you something. And I'm telling my father I'm now the wealthiest person in our family at 27 years old. And he's blown away. He's like, this is the most amazing thing. Are you kidding me? This is a wild thing, amazing. And I said, yeah, Dad, but I'm depressed. And he's like, what? And I was like, I thought when this happened, I'd be super happy and content. I'm just driving down the road on Atlanta on Piedmont. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And my dad goes, I want you to do me a favor. One of the greatest pieces of advice he ever gave me. He said, I want you to call me back in 5 or 10 minutes. I want you to think about the times that made you happy over the last year, and I want you to tell me what they are. And I hung up the phone. I thought about it, called him back, and I said, it's super cliche. It's, playing pickup ball. It's giving kids tickets on the road. It's, hanging out with friends and having a good night out. It's hanging out at family dinner. And my dad goes, I think the point of becoming financially successful is to be able to implement more of those things into your life. Money can be a jail or it can be a freedom. And I realized from that point on that I was never going to find contentment in making $1, but I was going to find it in things I already had, family, friends, food.
Yeah.
But I was going to have more opportunities to create those moments because of financial freedom.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I strive for, because I've been on the other side of having nothing. And I know when I say these things, people hear it. They're like, easy for you to say you have financial freedom. You don't know my struggle. And the truth is they're right. I'm not living in that same struggle anymore. I used to, but I'm not. But it doesn't mean that they can't hear what I'm saying and take it for what it's worth. And it doesn't mean when I meet them, they can explain to me the struggle and give me a new perspective and give me a reminder.
Yeah.
And I think we just got to get to a place where people respect each other and they listen to each other's opinions and advice and take what they need from it and not feel a need to judge someone else or bring someone else down because of what we might be going through.
Yeah. I agree 100%. All right, here's some quick questions for you. Person you'd love to sit down with in history and have a cup of coffee.
Anyone
with.
in history?
Anybody in history. It's living or dead.
Oh man, that's so
tough.
tough.
Tough, because there's a lot of people out there, but.
Yeah, wow, like really on the spot. I wouldn't say it needs to be one person, but if I had to pick one.
2 people, I don't know.
Okay, I'll pick 2 people.
Could be a family member, it could be someone famous.
You know what's funny? I'm Jewish,
anybody.
but I would have loved to sit down with Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And just have a conversation with him, because I've grown up in Christian society. I've heard a lot of great stories and everything else. So from a biblical standpoint, I'd probably want to sit down and talk to Jesus, because my friend Judah Smith, who's an amazing pastor, he was saying to me that, my experience growing up was with disciples, not with him. There were people blocking me from different things. So I'd like to just have a conversation, because he's, while I might not believe he was the Messiah because I'm Jewish, I believe he was an amazing, force. So I'd have a conversation, and King Solomon, because he was like the wise of the kings biblically. And then from just a standpoint of history, I would have loved to sit down with just really great philosophers. Like if you could have sat down and had a conversation with Socrates, or if you had could have sat down and had a conversation with just any of the great philosophers along the way, or even Kafafi, who wrote my favorite poem, Ithaca. It would have been cool to sit down with these people and have a conversation, like Rudyard Kipling, who wrote If, have those conversations of what brought you to that place, who are you? And then, it sounds, if I could just have one more conversation with my grandmother, that would have been cool.
Yeah. That'd be a good little group there. Little nice dinner there. Favorite book you recommend to people?
I won't recommend the book about David because he doesn't like it. There's a new book, Factfulness, that's really good.
Or top books to
I would say
recommend to people.
there's a book called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest
Great
books
book.
I've ever read.
Yeah, good book. If you could make one food healthy that
Chocolate.
not healthy,
Chocolate.
that you could eat all the time, and it
Chocolate.
actually would be
Chocolate cake.
chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake.
No ice cream? You wouldn't put a little vanilla ice cream with that, or is it just?
Am I allowed to make that healthy too?
Yeah.
Yeah, chocolate
Well,
cake.
I think you got to count that together. Nobody eats chocolate cake alone.
Listen,
Only weirdos do
I'm
that.
following your rules because it's never going to happen in reality anyway.
Yes. Yeah, we're for fantasy.
Chocolate cake, warm chocolate cake with a big old scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Oh, talking to me.
You make that healthy.
Yeah.
You're my hero.
Since you're a music guy, country music, hip hop, you got to pick one. Country music, hip hop, R&B, alternative music, rock and roll, whatever.
A great song. A great song is a great song.
Which
Doesn't matter. It's
what
great.
genre of music do you listen,
Listen, man. Boys to Men took a Beatles song, and it was a great R&B song. A great song is a great song. It doesn't matter if it starts country or ends R&B. Like Ray Charles sang country and R&B. Like it's a great song is a great song. I like a song that you can sit down with a guitar or a piano and play, and it's a great song no matter what.
I like
But to me, a great song crosses all genres.
So what do you listen to on Pandora or one of these?
I listen to everything. I mean, like if you even look at the stuff that I've signed over the years, I really do listen to every type of music because I like to see, even when music I don't understand, that is something I will seek out. I'll go to like a festival and say, I want to see people reacting to this music to understand where their joy is coming from if I don't understand it. And then I find ways to, join in on that joy. But I really do love all different types of music because of the role it plays in our lives.
When I play football, one of the biggest things that happens with anybody who's in the line, the public eye, you get a lot of people out there that hate on you. A lot of critics. How do you deal with the critics and the haters?
One, I think you got to, like I said earlier, you got to know your truth. You got to know your intention. I think you should have no regrets in life unless you do something with, malicious intent. And if I go through life with no malicious intent, other people hurt people, and they're going to project that onto you. They're going to say certain things. But you shouldn't even devalue them in that moment. I don't really carry it. I used to get really angry. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, well, this is just an opportunity for me long-term to really, truly show my truth. And being in the management business, I've had to learn to humble myself in that way where, when you're coming up, you're told if someone does something bad to you, strike it down. If you see someone doing something bad, you strike it down. But in the management world, you're not going to get results by telling someone that's not reasonable and just striking down their opinion. Everyone's opinion comes from a place of validity in their mind. So the better thing to do is find a place of respect and turn, the anger off and say, I know this is shocking to you, but I actually respect you on this one level. Now that we've shown each other respect, let's have a conversation. So it's hard when you get attacked and it's not based in any truth. In a world of social media, we're getting 140 character opinions from everybody.
Yeah.
And you because it's equal on your page, you think that everyone should be as valid to you. And that's just not the truth. So like I said, sometimes I just turn around. Like I went through some drama recently and then I put my phone down and looked at my friends and my family in my backyard. And I was like, I'm good. I've done nothing here with malicious intent. I'm happy. And people question your integrity. They talk shit. They do all kinds of stuff. You and I have talked about it when you were on the field that first year when you dropped some passes and they were second year, sorry.
Yeah.
And they were coming at you, but you took it as an opportunity to fuel your fire, know who you are, and go on to the greatness that took place. And my thing is, as long as the people that I love and respect are my compass, that's the direction I'm going to go in.
Yeah. Our podcast is called Wide Open, and I'm asking this question to everybody who sits in that chair or I have the opportunity to sit down with. What are you wide open to learning right now?
I'm wide open to questioning myself.
Mm.
That's really like the journey I've been on the last few years. I'm wide open to not, when I get upset or just assuming I'm right in the situation. I'm wide open to taking a step back in every single situation and questioning myself to a point of growing. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do at this point.
All right. Well, thank you for being the second guest.
Tony, you don't get off the hook that easily.
Huh? Why is that?
You got to interview me, but I got some questions.
You got questions? I thought you had a lunch to go to, man.
No, my friend, I got some questions. One, let's start with your last question. Tony, what are you wide open to learning in the next month?
I guess on the heels of what we were talking about, something that I've been questioning myself lately is I want a mentor, and I see how you've found them, and I'm wide open to seeing if I can seek somebody out that could, teach me, that I could learn from. To having a mentor, do you have to have a mentor that is in your line of work? No. Because it sounds like the mentors you have are, David Geffen, you read his book and you were telling me what you read and what stuck out to you.
Sometimes it's in there, but
that was a blueprint because you've been doing the same thing that he's done, which is a great mentor.
My dad's one of my greatest mentors and he has nothing to do with my line of work. I think I actually have one in mind for you.
Do you really?
So I'll tell you later, but I have one in mind for you that I think a really special guy, and I think you guys should meet. You guys would hit it off.
Because and the reason I say that, I think mentorship is huge. I mean, and usually it's your parents when you're growing up. That's usually who your mentors are. But as you get older, especially in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever it is, it's like, okay, who can I go talk to learn something from? And I've always used books. That's been my mentors, is books. But now I want to actually sit down and talk to somebody. So
this leads to my last question of my podcast, Wide Open with Tony Gonzalez. You say that, and you talk about your line of work. So people would assume, probably listening, oh, he wants to get someone who used to be a professional athlete and went on to go do other things. But I actually want to ask you a different question because I know you. When it's all said and done, when your kids are standing there and they're giving the speeches, and what do you want to be known for? Because I don't think it's a football player. No. I think everybody who has a profession out there that they're recognized for, they're like, okay, I'm so much more than just that. I mean, I'm asking you, you're all said and done. You've achieved the things you want to achieve. What do you want them to say? What were those accolades? What were those things? What were you known for?
I really enjoy what I'm doing right here. Because this, I believe, being a football player, yeah, I mean, as good as I was, there are people out there that you could argue and say we're better, and people are going to come and go, and there's going to be great football players out there. But doing something like this, you can have an impact on people, and that's what I want to do. I want to show everybody you can still have this great career, but then you can also touch people's lives. It's that's another thing I'm wide open to learning as well, is to realize that it's not about me. And I've been egotistical at times, and I've been selfish at times.
We all have.
And I want to go through, and I believe you do. You have to have a certain level of selfishness in order to have any type of success. You do. You have to be able to say, hey, I love you, but I can't hang out with you. Or I love you, but I got to go do this instead because I have my goal. But I want to be able to now, I guess, find that joy in other people's joy. And children do that.
So this is my challenge to you. And at the end of this podcast, that when you talk about your mentors, and you were asking me just now, well, do you think it has to be within your profession? It sounds like what your profession, where you want to end up, is what you just described. So you should be looking for a mentor in that lane, not from someone from former athletic community.
Yeah. I don't think it would be from the former athletic community.
I think you want to find someone who's found a way to spread knowledge and joy.
Yeah. You got anybody in mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you. When the cameras turn off and everything else, because if it doesn't work out, I don't want to.
Yeah. Actually, they didn't want to meet with you, Tony. I'm sorry.
I think they'll meet you. But look, man, I really appreciate you, and I'll say this to your whole audience as you're growing this thing. There is, we all got to watch you on the field, and we all got to admire you as that champion and everything else. I've had the fortunate, opportunity to know you as my friend, and when you're growing up, athletes, you want them to be role models. And Tony Gonzalez is the real deal. He is a better human being than he even was as a player. And that's why he's going to go on to be so much more than a player, and already is. And I just want people to know that, like, if they admired you before, they should continue to, because it comes from a genuine place.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, buddy. This mic's
You want to know what it's the worst power pose of all time. You ready? Watch this.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
See the face? It was all in the face. This is the worst wide open pose ever.
Yeah, it's not very wide. Well, it's you. It's wide open.
It is. This is how I would do it.